Hello and welcome back to another episode of a weekly Waypoint. Today we are playing the absolute streamer bait / legitimate hilarity that is Party Animals. I was trying to talk about this game the other day and I was like, oh yeah, Animal Party, it's great. And I was like, why does that sound wrong? Anyway, it's Gang Beasts meets Fall Guys. You're welcome. Now you know what the game is. Now it's on Game Pass and it is legitimately hilarious and fun. It's pretty hard to get a concept of. Like, my first few matches were not all that enjoyable. I felt like none of my hits were landing. I felt like I didn't really know how to control my character, and I did do the tutorial, by the way, which you should definitely do. But as you start to get a feel for it, it's just the funniest fucking game. And I absolutely love the attitude of this bunny that I play. Like, I always choose the bunny because he's just got such a heckin' attitude about him. Anyway, in this match, the objective, I don't know if I accidentally cut out the objective part of a loading screen or whatever, but the objective is to play these arcade machines and get lots of points, or stop people from being able to do so. And I decided to play defensively, by which I mean offensively, by which I mean not letting anyone touch the fucking arcade machines. Sorry, I'm just giggling watching my own gameplay. I love this game, it's amazing. I'm playing solo here, but I did play a bunch with Reese as well, and who knows, it may become Dimension Jam content. Don't tell anyone. If you don't know what Dimension Jam is, go to youtube.com/@DimensionJam. I mean to plug it every single week, and I forget almost every single week to do so. I am bad at forming new habits, especially the ones which I want to form most of all. Anyway, yesterday we got a brand new trailer for the upcoming Doctor Who's 60th anniversary specials, and if you can't tell, I'm in quite a Doctor Who mood. I've got my Doctor Who rewatch podcast going every week, and it's been super fun to record, and apart from the other day's episode, they've all done pretty well in terms of how the channel usually does. I kind of expected the Unquiet Dead episode to flop because you know, if anyone felt quite that way about the episode that I did, they would think, oh, that crusty old episode with like Charles Dickens or whatever, that's not going to be an interesting one. But I'm telling you, it was. It's probably my favourite one that I've recorded so far, because I found so much to enjoy in that episode on my fourth rewatch. But I'm not too fussed about certain episodes performing poorly or whatever, because I know people are probably going to tune in more for like the specials and like the favourites and stuff, and I'm happy to just create an entire podcast of, like, you know, a thorough rewatch of every single episode, because they're fun to make, and it'll be nice to have that kind of like, oh, here's a documented, you know, rewatch impressions podcast show thing. I've never really called thoughts per episode a podcast before, but it is, so I'm trying to be more, and like I'm actually categorizing it on my channel as a podcast, which is a thing you can do now. Anyway, the 60th anniversary trailer, if you haven't watched it yet, would recommend doing so. It's very exciting. I don't really have much more to add. 14, I guess, the 14th Doctor, that's David Tennant again, if you're not keeping up. He seems very serious and dramatic and in distress a lot of the time during all of these teasers and this trailer we've got, so I do hope that there is time for him to be silly or fun or, you know, the smiley side that we normally see. I love a grumpy Tennant Doctor as much as the next person, but ultimately I just want to see him thrive. I mean, okay, joking aside, long ago, but when it was first mentioned that David Tennant was returning to Doctor Who, I did kind of do a speculation video. If you're interested in going back and watching that, it's somewhere on the channel. And I did say, you know, I hope they address his exit from the show, because I felt like there were some unresolved things. You know, things which I guess were more developed in 11's arc, such as being afraid of change and having all of this trauma and not having it addressed and that kind of thing. But I would like to see a more wholesome exit for 14, a more like, you know, RTD has been hinting that will not be the case, but just like a more mentally healthy climax for that character, even though 14 is technically different than 10, and I'm curious to see how. Anyway, enough Doctor Who. You know what I'm bloody excited for? Forza Motorsport. I mean, it's called Forza Motorsport, but I want to call it Forza Motorsport 8. First thing I saw this morning after I woke up from a horrible nightmare about my loved ones dying, was this update about Forza and like how they're going to be doing content updates going forwards, and they're going to be adding new tracks and cars and the way seasonal events are going to work and that kind of a thing, and it just looks like so much fun. I jokingly call games like Gran Turismo and Forza Motorsport boring racing games. Obviously they're more close to simulation racing games, and I know actual simulation racing fans will yell at me for calling Forza Motorsport a simulation racing game, but it's as close as I'm ever going to get, and it's different to Forza Horizon, so what do you want me to do? Anyway, I think the thing I'm most excited for in Forza Motorsport is the fact that it is focusing more on individual cars, because I've been playing some more Forza Motorsport 7 this week because I'm excited for the future, and that's sometimes what you do. You go and you continue playing the last one in the series, and you're like, wow, I'm so excited for the next one in the series. Anyway, I've been playing it, and the problem with Forza Motorsport 7 is I really have no sense of my garage. Like, I have no sense of what cars I own. I have no sense of what cars I've driven before. I have no feeling of ownership over these cars. No sense of, like, oh, yay. This is, like, I had this in Forza Horizon 4. I would have a select group of favourite cars for each, like, car class and stuff. I assume I did for 5 as well. I don't really have as many memories of Horizon 5, which is curious considering it's the more recent game. But it sounds like in Forza Motorsport, the new one, they really should have just called it 8. I don't care that it's going to be a live service game. Cut it out. In 8, they're very much making it so that each car is something that you, like, level up in a way, and I don't know all the particulars behind that, but I know that I bloody love that idea for adding, like, RPG-like mechanics to Forza Motorsport, and that's really cool. And ever since I was little, I've loved the fantasy of slowly building up your garage. Garage. I don't know why my brain wants me to suddenly say garage like Americans do. And, you know what? I'm just going to play Gran Turismo. Later today, I was playing Forza Motorsport 7 last night, and I was like, this is great, I'm having a really fun time, but man do I wish I could play some of the Gran Turismo tracks. I'm just going to play Gran Turismo 2. I'm going to get my license tests out of the way. I'm going to get it done, or I'm going to look up a save file that already has them done or something. I'm going to have a fun frickin' time. But anyway, I mentioned it before, but my hype is increasing with every week that Forza Motorsport gets closer, and next week will be the last week that it's not here, I guess. I don't think it's gonna really hold a candle to the many other fantastic games that have released this year, as in, like, while I think it'll probably be a really good Forza Motorsport entry, I don't think it's gonna break out of its genre in the way that Baldur's Gate 3 has. But you know, and I'm excited. I like Forza games, I like Gran Turismo games. I'm excited to race fast cars. It's gonna be good time. Also this week, besides Forza Motorsport 7, I have been playing not just RuneScape this time, but OldSchool RuneScape. I've dipped my toe back into the retro world of RuneScape, and I explain it more at the start of whenever Volume 3 of OldSchool RuneScape Adventures and OldSchool Gillen or whatever I call it comes out. But I have some complicated feelings about, you know, what account to use and what way I want to play Old School, which is kind of one of the reasons why I haven't done it in so long. But my friend Noms has started playing Old School, and I'm just like easily fucking swayed. Like, they weren't even trying to convince me, and I was just like, oh, you're playing Old School? Why are you doing that? I want to play Old School. So I guess maybe expect some more Adventures in Old School Gillenor videos coming your way kinda soon. It is always weird playing an older version and a newer version of a game side by side. I did this with WoW at one point as well. Just like being like, oh, that's right, that doesn't work this way, this works that way. You know, it's even weirder with fucking Old School RuneScape, because that game has had, like, God, what is it, 10 years now of updates in its own way since. So it's not just a 2007 version of RuneScape, it's like, it's just RuneScape 2 but with 5 years of updates missing from it. You know, like, or development time, I guess, missing from it. It is such a weird, bizarre, unique scenario to find yourself in with a video game. And as it turns out, I like both versions. Instead of being like, this version's better, grah, 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 I'm picking a fight with the other side, you could just say, like, RuneScape, man. You just, you know, just be chill with it, just be happy. I have complicated feelings about Guild Wars 2. Oh no. Oh no, he's talking negatively about Guild Wars 2. I only subscribed to him for that Guild Wars 2 video he did. Don't worry, I haven't given up on it, but I've got some things to say. The other day I was like, hey, I should continue playing Guild Wars 2, especially since I've just spent 30 quid on the first 2 expansions. That is a thing that I should do. And I started to play it, and I just felt the way I do about WoW sometimes. I just kind of went, I'm just repeating the same cycle here. I'm just going to hearts or events. I've been told that events are like the heart of the gameplay, not necessarily the actual hearts. So I've been doing events as well. I'm just kind of like aimlessly doing damage at creatures until they die and getting progress for it. And that's not really like a gameplay loop that feels amazing. Like Guild Wars 2's combat doesn't feel good enough to support that, at least not single player. I had some really fun times playing with Reese, so maybe it'll be more Dimension Jam content as we play co-op. But I don't know, man. I logged in. I'm like level 34. Again, I'm a Mesmer, and I was like, all right, time to keep going because I want to get to my level 40 personal story. I was like, so I just got to kind of grind XP to get there, and I'm like, because also I know like the actual story of the game is going to be more of a thing at level 80 when you're doing like the living world and the expansions and stuff. And I was like, okay, can't wait for the game to start. And yeah, I was just like, after a world event that took a little bit too long, I was like, I'm gonna play something else. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much time it's going to take for me to get through Guild Wars 2 to the point where it gets good, but I can tell you I'm not going to dedicate too much time to it immediately. I do very much like that it doesn't have subscription, so I don't necessarily have to worry about like, oh, do I just want to hop in and do a bit of Guild Wars 2? Am I going to have to pay a sub to do that? That's one of the very few MMOs where that is not the case. But again, I think I've slowed down with Guild Wars 2 to the point where I'm not saying I'm actively playing it. It's kind of, you know, I might have another video in me to edit. I haven't really looked over the clips yet, but yeah, it's kind of lost me. Maybe I should just re-roll a new character. Like maybe the Mesmer class just isn't doing it for me. I have tried a few different weapon loadouts, but yeah, it's a shame. I suppose it was bound to happen. Like, I love so many of the most popular MMOs that it was bound for me to find one of the most popular MMOs and feel the way I do about, like, I don't know, Path of Exile or something. That's a weird comparison, but I don't like Path of Exile either. I'm not saying I don't like Guild Wars 2. I'm just saying I don't want to play it right now. If anyone has any advice for me, please let me know. Like, it's not even like I can spam dungeons. Like, I enjoy spamming dungeons in games like WoW and Final Fantasy and Elder Scrolls Online, but you can't really, there's no dungeon finder in that game. So, I don't know. I have been playing Spyro 2. That's another game I've been playing this week. Just last night I was like, you know what? I don't know why, but it is time for me to play another Spyro game. I've already beaten Spyro 2 before, but like, I was just like, sorry, I keep giggling at my gameplay. This is so unprofessional of me. I haven't done this since like the very early days of Weekly Waypoint. I was just like, I want to play Spyro. Something about this time of year, man. It just like, this is the time of year when you kind of get that itch to scratch for like, I kind of want to, kind of feel like playing. And like, I had this the other day. I was like, kind of feel like playing Terraria. Games which usually hit around this time of year for me are Skyrim, although that's probably not going to be the case this time because we've got Starfield, which is very similar in terms of the way it plays. Like I already mentioned, I usually get an itch to play Terraria around this time of year. Usually when it gets more to November, December time, it's more Heat Signature, which is more of an indie game that you might not have heard of, but it's a really fun kind of, how do I explain it? It's like this stealth game in outer space, top down. It's kind of like more tactical Hotline Miami in space. Hotline Miami meets Hitman in space. There you go. That's what Heat Signature is. Anyway, I played it a bunch around Christmas time one year, and now every time it gets wintry, I'm like, oh, I feel like playing Heat Signature. There's nothing inherently wintry about that game. I think I usually go for Minecraft sometime around September, October time as well. I'm like, fancy it. I think just this time of year, man, like September, like the start of a new school year. Obviously have not been a school student in about a decade now, but something about the end of summer, the beginning of autumn the transition into a new school year always brings out the nostalgia in me. I don't know why. Maybe you're the same. I think I read somewhere that it's a common thing. Anyway, what else could I talk about this week? I'm still reading Spider-Man. I'm still reading Amazing Spider-Man. I've got to Dan Slott's run. I might have already mentioned that. I got to his run like a week or two ago. Dan Slott's got quite a renowned run in Amazing Spider-Man. I think he went for about 10 years or so, maybe a little bit less. But everyone loves him. He's like the modern like 2010 to 2020 freaking Amazing Spider-Man. And you know what I've just realized? Not to bring it to back to Doctor Who again, but Amazing Spider-Man, I guess I don't need to say amazing, but Spider-Man and Doctor Who have the same problem. They have the same basic problem with their characters, and that's that they are both 60-year-old characters who have had multiple writers, and perhaps more so in Doctor Who's case, have had multiple writers that haven't necessarily cared about lore that the other writers have set up. And you get to 2023 and now you've got this character that's kind of seen everything, done everything, and kind of been rewritten several times, but not as an actual proper reboot, more as in like within their own lore. Like everything that happened to them before is still true, but also the way they are responding to things now do not match up with who they should be as a character for everything they've done. So for instance, Spider-Man's literally been to space, he's literally saved the universe countless times, and yet he still has like this humble personality, like this feeling of like, am I even doing anything with my life? Am I even doing anything worthwhile? Like, these are things which would change anyone fundamentally. And then with Doctor Who, I went down a fucking rabbit hole last night on the wiki, and like, I'm not going to go into it here. I might save it for some future content, but it's so directly contradictory. Like, if you go, I was like, oh, we'll just go to like the first Doctor's page and see what it says about the first incarnation of the Doctor. And it's like, the Doctor and Susan first met humans on this planet, or they first met humans on the moon. And it's like, wait, what do you mean, or? And it's like, oh, there are two separate stories about them meeting humans for the first time. It's like, but how are they both true? And it's like, I don't fucking know, dude. These writers were not aware of each other's work, but within the Doctor Who canon, they're both true. So, shrug. And there's just like multiple instances of that happening, and I shouldn't let it bother me. But you know what? It really bothers me. Anyway, I don't know if any of that made sense. Thank you for watching this episode of Weekly Waypoint. Like and subscribe if you liked the video and wish to subscribe for more. I'm doing it. I'm being a YouTuber. I'm asking for these things. I haven't even mentioned. I do this every time. We hit 300 subscribers. We hit 300 subscribers this week. Thank you so much. I was waiting for that number to tick over because we stalled at 299 for a little bit, and then I refreshed the page one day and it was like 302, and I was like, oh. So yes, thank you very much for 300 subscribers. I'm very happy with how the channel is growing, and hope you stick around.